We have trade updates around Vooch. We're going to be looking at the possible new asking price for Vooch, along with a trade rumor that has Vooch linked to the Phoenix Suns, and also to the most recent signing for the Chicago Bulls. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so today we are looking at the recent trade updates around Vooch. In fact, we have a report that comes out that maybe suggests that the Chicago Bulls have maybe backed off a little bit with their asking price and the draft assets that they might be looking to get back for Vooch. We're also going to be looking at a possible deal that could send Vooch to the Phoenix Suns, or at least a rumor that has the Phoenix Suns linked to him. And the Chicago Bulls just made a two-way signing. And so let's jump into this first update, and that is just the fact that the Chicago Bulls might have updated their asking price. And so you can find this on Real GM Wiretap. I saw this actually yesterday. But going into this article, the thing that they say in this little excerpt is just that the Bulls may not necessarily be looking for first-round picks anymore. In fact, the Chicago Bulls might be willing to move Vooch for second-rounders. They do link this to Joe Cali, and so I went ahead and dug around a little bit more, and I found this actually on Clutch Sports, and so you can check it out there. But this is the excerpt that I got out of that, and it is essentially Joe Cali saying that, yes, there was the one report that the Bulls were looking for first-round picks in the 2025 draft in a package for Vooch. This would really coincide with what we had heard from Mark Stein and the Stein line, saying that the Bulls were looking for first-round draft picks for Vooch, especially since they didn't get any first-round picks in that OKC deal. And so he's saying that that's not necessarily the case, and saying that playoff teams or really any teams really are kind of in the situation where they're not necessarily hanging first-round picks out there for the 2025 draft, and that more than likely second-rounders are going to be included into any type of deal for Vooch. And so this is just paraphrasing this quote. And so when I just look at this quote and just think about this from a totality standpoint, I think that, regardless if the Chicago Bulls get first-round picks for Vooch or they get second-round picks for Vooch, this franchise needs to have a plan, because you can certainly build a team with second-round picks. And I think that just comes down to understanding the type of players that you want, the type of players that fit your system. And you have to just be thorough in your approach in any round that you're drafting in. And so I hope that the Chicago Bulls have that plan, because we know this team needs defensive players. We need to have players that can get up and run and generally knock down the three ball. But also, too, we need to have players that have the ability to maybe unlock our half-court game. We know that this team lacks height as well, so we would need somebody that can play up on the front court, because we have a lot of guards. And so whatever the Bulls do, regardless of the round, you need to have a plan to address that. And so if this is the updated price too for the Chicago Bulls, and a keyword if, because these are rumors, speculations, and things like that, we don't know. But if the Bulls are now saying, okay, we're coming off the first rounders and we're looking for second rounders, what this tells me is that the Bulls are essentially holding up the for sale sign, and they're trying to get teams to maybe come into the door and take a look in the store, because I don't know what the current market is for Vooch. I don't know if there's a whole bunch of noise around him. I haven't heard a whole bunch of rumblings like we've heard about Zach LaVine. But if this is the case, that the Bulls are looking for second rounders, maybe they're trying to get teams to come on in and get the conversation started and saying, hey, the asking price has dropped down. The Bulls still have a ton of time. February the 6th is the trade deadline. And so hopefully whatever the Chicago Bulls do, they do something that helps this team move forward. And I'm just hopeful and trying to stay optimistic that the Chicago Bulls would at least get a decent player back along with draft capital. So I absolutely think they get a draft capital in the deal. And also, too, they need to get a decent player coming back, or at least I'm hoping for that. And so next up, we're going to jump into the recent rumor around Vooch that has him attached to the Phoenix Suns. And so I found this very interesting. You can find this on NBA Central with the tweet. But also, too, I did see an article where this is posted on, I think it's Chicago Bulls Sports Illustrated. You can read a little bit bit more, and it links to this. But it is essentially saying here, and paraphrasing, that the Phoenix Suns are looking at Vooch. They're also looking at Jonas Valanciunas, who plays for the Wizards. And, it possibly would be linking Nurkic to a possible trade for either of those players. And so to jump into this a little bit more, I did see an article on Bleacher Nation, which actually addresses this article, and it links to the Stein line because Mark Stein did write about this. This is one of the lines out of this, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. But the Suns are said to be interested in Vooch, and it looks like that attaching draft capital and then also to Nurkic to the deal would be the starter here for the Phoenix Suns. And so just to elaborate a little bit more, this is on the Stein line, and I think he also goes into talking about just how difficult it is going to be for the Phoenix Suns in being into that second apron. And I think that initially, just my thoughts here, that there is no way that this deal is getting done because of that second apron. In fact, we talk about two aprons. I think that the Phoenix Suns are in the fourth apron. I'm just kidding. There's no such thing as a fourth apron, but they're in the second apron, which means this. When you're into that apron, you cannot attach multiple players and move them out in a deal. This goes back to what I was talking about with Brian Windhorst when he put that example that, look, if you have a $30 million player that you want and you're in that second apron, you better have a $30 million player to trade. And so that lies the issue with the Phoenix Suns, because when we look at what the Phoenix Suns have to offer in the Nurkic contract, you see that he's making $18 million, which puts you almost there. The issue is that Vooch is making $20 million. They cannot combine players, and you just get a chance to see just what type of financial situation that the Phoenix Suns are in. Because, I mean, look at this right now. You see that KD, he's on the books for 2 years at $51.1 million. Bradley Beal at $50.2 million for 3 years, and he has a no trade clause. And then you have Devin Booker at $49.2 for 4 years, and you're not getting any of those players. And so the Suns, look, they have heavily invested to the top of this roster, and I think that if this were possible, if this deal were possible to happen, I think that this really benefits the Suns more than it would the Chicago Bulls, because with the Phoenix Suns, they're going to get a player that is able to stretch the floor in Vooch. I was looking at that Christmas Day game, and I saw that the Joker was pretty much laying off of Nurkic and kind of daring him to shoot the basketball, and he was not hitting those shots. And so I think that a player like Vooch is going to certainly give them the rebounding aspect, and then also too offensively, he is going to help this team out as well. And, for the Chicago Bulls, this is not a deal that you would want to do even if you could, because Nurkic, look, he's averaging 9 points a game, 9.7 rebounds a game. He's shooting 45.7% from the field, which is his third worst percentage of his career right now. And more importantly, he's shooting 29.1 from three, which is that's terrible. And considering that the Chicago Bulls, that's the main point of their offense, is shooting 3-point shots, he's not going to fit in very well. Like, he's not going to be able to stretch the floor for you in those aspects. Now, defensively, he probably gives you a little bit more than Vooch because he's got a lot more quicker feet. Obviously, he can get to some spots, contest a little bit better and things like that. But aside from that, I think that there's statistics that show that, it's just not necessarily a plus when he's on the floor for the Suns. I'm not sure that would necessarily be a plus for the Bulls. And, with $18 million, like, I get it. Like, it's $18 million and he has 2 years on the deal. So I guess, and if you're looking for draft compensation, the Suns really can't give you a first round pick until 2031. That's when they can outright give you a first round pick. And then as far as the second round picks, they do have an abundance of those. They have a 2026, they have a 2028, 2031. So they have some second round picks, but as far as a first round pick, they're not going to be able to get anything done until 2031. And so I just think that this deal is not happening because of those aprons, which is talked about. And then also too, just from a statistical standpoint, a playing style, a roster construction, this makes zero sense for this deal to happen. So I just wanted to go ahead and throw these numbers up there so you can see just about what we're looking at with these salary caps and things like that, and why it is tough to move, especially when you have this new CBA and you see that you have the second apron. And now this kind of puts this into context when we're talking about Zach LaVine and being moved to these teams and stuff like that. Like, some of these teams are operating just in tight windows. And so next up, I wanted to go into the newest signing for the Chicago Bulls, and you can find this on Bleacher Nation. And essentially what the Chicago Bulls did is they signed them a two-way player that had a pretty successful college season for TCU. You see that he had 15.8 points a game, 6.1 rebounds a game for the Horned Frogs in his last season. So showed a ton of upside. His name is Emanuel Miller, and he's actually the younger brother of Leonard Miller, who is the Timberwolves forward there. So it's his second year with the Timberwolves. He's a 6'10 forward over there. And with Emanuel Miller, the one thing I do love about him is he's 6'7" and he's a forward, not a guard, and certainly slash and get to the rim. He also was very active as far as rebounding the basketball, and he can shoot the three-point shot as well. And so hopefully with that 6'7" frame, this is a player that would be able to provide something defensively. But the real issue with this signing is that coming in on a two-way contract, we already have Adama Sanogo, we have DJ Stewart, and we have EJ Liddell, which means somebody has to go. And I definitely don't want it to be Sanogo, especially for a team that I think lacks size. And I feel like Sanogo has really not even been given really a really good chance. And then also, too, with DJ Stewart had a very good summer league. He's playing pretty good with the Windy City Bulls. And EJ Liddell, he's appeared in some games for us, and he hasn't looked very bad at all. And so, now it's the question of what are the Chicago Bulls going to do? Who are they going to let go? And also, too, are they truly going to give Emanuel Miller a chance? And so I'm curious to know what the Bulls are going to do. Let me know in the comments what you think about this. Do they use Emanuel Miller this season? Or do you think it's a player that, he's going to just pretty much pass through, or maybe stays with the Windy City Bulls? Who knows? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And then as far as these trade rumors, if the Phoenix Suns could make that deal, would you want to see Nurkic there traded for Vooch? And then also, too, what do you think about the potential or possible new asking price if it is true that the Chicago Bulls are now looking for second-round picks versus the first-round picks? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. So I just want to thank everybody out there for liking, subscribing, and sharing to the content. It means a lot to us here at Bulls Digest. So we try to reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers by the end of the NBA season out there. Want to let you know about 66.3% of you that watch are not subscribed. So make sure that you go down and you slam dunk on that subscribe button for us. It means a lot as we try to reach our subscriber count. And look, even though the Bulls at the bottom line, they have got to have a plan. I don't care what you're getting back as far as draft capital is concerned. You need to have a plan, because right now this team has one foot into the youth movement. It has the other foot with the past team. And at some point, you need to get to a path and go down that path and push forward, because right now the Bulls are just caught between the two. And I think that is clearly going to impact them on every decision that they make, whether it's a free agent signing, a draft pick that they have, or, just in any trade scenario and getting back draft picks or a decent player. It needs to make sense for this roster and just the bigger picture. And so hopefully the Chicago Bulls get a direction. And as I usually say, even though the Bulls are struggling with getting a direction, go Bulls, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.